This episode is brought to you by Act Now Education. Go to www.actnoweducation.com for free comprehensive educational resources and opportunities for active duty, veterans, military spouses, and children. The views and opinions expressed by this episode's guests do not necessarily reflect the views or position of the Department of Defense, Department of Army, or any of their organizations. They are his own views and opinions alone.
One thing too is this: it's hard to be successful when it's just you. When you have a circle of people that are on the same ambition, same goals, same drive that you want to get to, all you're going to do is have a melting pot for success. And really look at your circle and look at your friends, look at your family, those that are where they are, where they're at. And are you happy being there? Do you want to be there? So really ask and demand more of yourself and those around you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are very fortunate to be joined, and I am honored to have the next generation of military leader on our show. I met this gentleman while hosting the military mix-up in the Mil-Pact Club on Clubhouse, and I felt that this young professional has something going for him that places him ahead of his class, and that is his maturity and brilliance to seek knowledge from his fellow military community. For him to be actively seeking information, leaning forward in the foxhole, as they say, in preparedness for his next step, which is to get commissioned and eventually take over a leadership position within the United States Army, demonstrates this young commissioned officer's overall maturity and professionalism, because when I was his age and in his position, I did not seek advice or help from anyone that had already been in the military community. Today we have United States Army 2nd Lieutenant Jordan Player, who has been commissioned for only a few weeks now. He's a signal officer who is extremely eager and ready to learn from the front. Jordan, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, KP, for having me.
LT, would you mind telling us a little bit about where you're from and what was your upbringing like?
So I was born and raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina, until about 8 years old. I was living with my mom for the most part. I would see my dad mostly on the weekends. And, small town, small community growing up, not too much going on. Then I would say around middle school, I moved to Catawba County, North Carolina. And that's about maybe an hour or so outside of Charlotte, even smaller town. So that was one-way street in the country. My mom got remarried to my former stepdad. I would say it was just very small community. Everybody knew each other for the most part. Went to school with a lot of my friends I still talk to today. One-way street, and all it was to do was go outside and have fun. But like I said, my upbringing was pretty simple.
So what type of high school student would you say that you were? Were you actively involved in programs and sports? Did you have a lot of direction growing up? And what was your grades like?
Now, so my high school experience was kind of interesting. Going into high school, I always wanted to accomplish more and be more. My freshman year, so I got all A's in all my classes, right? I'll never forget, I showed my report cards to one of my friends that I used to know, and he showed me his. And he was like, oh, you got all A's, right? But where are the honors classes? And I was like, what? Honors classes? He was like, yeah, you trying to go to school, right? Those are just, chump change. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So ever since that conversation, I was motivated to be like, you know what? I can do more, and I want more. I want to go to school. So ever since then, I've been taking straight honors. I took my first AP class my senior year. I played sports. I played varsity basketball my sophomore year. Football was my love, still is. Really great at that. And I was in the Beta Club. In my senior year, I actually got the opportunity to join the society of students on campus that were, I guess you could say, leaders for the future and whatnot, who the faculty looked up to for the most part. So I was a part of that organization, and I finished off with a 7.5 GPA. So yeah, it was fun, and I really worked really, really hard to be to where I'm at now, and I kind of carried that ambition onto my future.
Now, you said you finished with a what GPA?
3.75.
3.75. Wow, that's really impressive. speaking from someone that really didn't, I was someone that didn't really know what I wanted to do until my junior year. And then I had to try to work myself up to get those A's and B's to even get up to a 3.0. So hats off to you, man, for figuring it out nice and early. How did you select your college, and at what point did you decide to start your journey into getting commissioned into the United States military?
So for the most part, when it came to my choice in schools, I wanted to be relatively close to home because I had a lot of family in North Carolina at the time. My aunts, my mom, and my grandparents. It's interesting enough, I didn't do well in the SAT. I'm not perfect by any means, but I didn't do well, so I didn't get to the schools that I wanted to. I wanted to go into Western Carolina my freshman year, and that was one of the options. I was like, okay, relatively cheap, nice campus, and why not start there? When it comes to my military career starting off, it really took me some introspection, I would say. Coming home, and I was like, wow, like I'm in school, I'm paying this money, but I don't really have a solid goal as to what I want to actually do. Growing up, I grew up in a military family. Granddad was in the Marines. Dad was in the Army for 20 plus years. My mom would have went to the Air Force if she didn't have me. I've got cousins I do have one uncle that served, but regardless, I grew up in the spectrum. So seeing what they've accomplished and what they've done in their careers, I was like, you know what? Like they're all, for the most part, living pretty well. And I want that. It was a conversation I had with my granddad. He was like, so I was like, you know what, granddad, like I'm pretty much getting done with school. Like I'm just trying to get some money now and start a career. And I chose the thing with the military. I took JRTC in high school. So I kind of had a good foundation for what sort I wanted to do. But he was like, you know what, grandson, like you should definitely look into the officer spectrum. So I was like, I never really thought about that. So I did some research and he helped me out as well. Saw that Western Carolina did not have an ROTC program. So I looked into it more. I found that UNC Charlotte did. And I was like, you know what, I'm packing my bags and, I'm gonna try to make this thing work. Me and my roommate at Western, we both transferred to Charlotte at the same time. And ever since 2018, we've been, I've been on my mission.
Yeah, I think what's most impressive about what you said so far is that, in high school at a very early age, you had a friend that almost challenged you to step up and take the honors classes. And then further after that, you had a family member get involved and challenged you even further to, hey, why don't you consider going the military route? Not only that, but why don't you consider getting commissioned? And many people get those types of folks into their lives. But the problem is they don't typically listen, or they don't see themselves as being that type of person that can take those challenges of those honor courses that you talked about, or can't really envision themselves as being a commissioned officer in the military. So that says a lot about you and your character and as far as taking challenges. And maybe that's why you were so competitive in playing varsity at, as a sophomore in high school on your basketball team. And can you just tell me why you decided the Army over all the other branches?
So when it comes to the Army, so I tried the Air Force program at UNC Charlotte. Not going to knock on them, but there were some things that were done kind of behind the curtain that were a bit disingenuous, but it is what it is. So the other option on campus was the Army ROTC program. So I looked into that. I luckily had some help from both sides getting me transitioned over. And I was a little bit nervous. I was like, it's the Army.
Right.
I didn't know what too much to think about it. Now, my dad obviously being a foundation of like kind of what that lifestyle is. And, I was like, well, I mean, he's been with me so far as kind of figuring out this military aspect of things. And he knows the Army inside and out. So I do have that support system. And interesting enough, I made a friend while I was with the Air Force for a little bit, and we're great buds today. But when it comes to the Army, like I love the diversity. I love that it has the most jobs in the military. So there's always something to choose from. And overall, the Army's had a lot of history. And for me, I like that in that side of the program, we have to do outside stuff, field stuff, tactics, leadership positions, things that I thought were really fundamental to being a leader inside of our military. So that from the jump kind of got me like, okay, I'm all in. I want to see what you guys have for me.
That's kind of interesting because there's a lot of people out there that are in college right now that don't know anything about the ROTC program. So, can you briefly talk about what ROTC is about and what was your experience like being in that program?
So ROTC is another route, well, one of the routes that a college student can choose to become a second lieutenant within our United States forces. Now, with that, it's a 4-year program. Usually, I came in my junior year. Transitioning from Air Force, I came in my junior year. So it's interesting because you're in college, and they know you're in college, and you're doing your classes, and you're handling your business on the front end. But you're also living a kind of double lifestyle with military stuff. We've had field trainings where we'd go out on weekends and we would do run tactics, run lanes, and we would do all sorts of things. We would host uh, contracting events for new contractees. So there's a lot of things that go into it. There's color guard. Um, there's ranger team that are like excellent PT people. But for the most part, like I said, it's a double life. It's a lot to juggle with, and I would say I wouldn't recommend it if you're not fully committed to what you want to do. I always say this to people: if you really want to do something and you're serious about it, you're going to make demands of yourself, and these demands are going to become things that drive you personally, interpersonally. So as long as you have that ambition to get what you want and understand what you want, you can do about anything, and this program is just one of those things. And the good thing about it as well, you've got cadre. NCOs have done this for years upon years from different spectrums. You've got them from different branches as well within the job force. And they have a wealth of information for you. So if you ever feel like you don't understand things, like, they're right next door. And for me personally, what I cherish the most about my experience with the program was that I've met some of the greatest people as far as my fellow cadets at the time and new second lieutenants. Absolutely amazing people. Always been there for me. They've always been welcoming me with open arms. It's a community. It's a family. It's a fraternity. It's whatever you make it, really. So I always urge people that are serious about doing something like this to go ahead and join. But it's also competitive too. It's not all glitz and glamour. You're competing the entire time. So keep that on the front end as well.
Yeah, I would say that I also went through the ROTC program. I was a green to gold cadet. So I went from enlisted National Guard to active duty commissioned officer. And it was quite interesting because when I jumped in my junior year for those labs, they immediately started having me teach classes on day one almost because of my enlisted time. The cadre that I had back then, and this is the early 2000s, we had one major that had served in Desert Storm, so he had a combat patch. Your cadre, did you have a lot of folks that had served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom?
I'm not sure, sir, but I will say this. There's one cadre member in particular. I'm not going to say his name, but he's probably the biggest, like, gun ho. Like, the dude is a legend. In the Army spectrum, he's a legend. He's done a lot of great things, and he's built a legacy within the Army, and it was great to meet him. And there's lots of cadre members like that, solid individuals, men and women that have served, that have done things that I aspire to do. I will say this, like you were speaking of coming in and getting leadership roles. When I first came in, like I said, I'm not knowing really much. That first semester that I came in, I had to be a PSG for my platoon during the JFTX. So we're out on the weekend for 3 nights. 2 nights and half a day. And we're running lanes, doing land nav, and all that good stuff. And me, I have no idea what's going on. But the beautiful thing about it was that this battalion had faith in me. They saw what I could be. They wanted to exploit my talents. So I really buckled down. I was like, you know what? Like, I can do this. And I didn't do that bad. It was a good time. The next semester, going into my senior year, I was a first sergeant for an entire company. And honestly, like, using what I learned from being a PSG and using that as my foundation for being a first sergeant, it was a great experience. I love training and coaching up the young freshmen and sophomores that were in my company and guiding them in anything they needed to do. I loved the pressures that came with it. And I'll say this for anybody as well that joins this program. You're going to be put in a lot of uncomfortable situations. You're going to be standing in front of a lot of people, public speaking. Got to get used to it. You're going to be nervous. You're going to be shocked. But at the same time, I think that builds a lot of character and ambition within yourself. And it builds a lot of confidence, because that's really what it comes down to is knowing that you can do this, knowing that no matter what, your peers got your back, and they want to hear and listen from you, and you have to give orders and be comfortable with it. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's one of the biggest things I've learned.
Those positions you were just talking about, being first sergeant, being in charge of folks, you're not supposed to be comfortable. You're not supposed to be a pro at it. The best place to learn is when you're in training. And so I think what's best about the military is how they teach you how to multitask. So I can speak from my experience. I don't know if it was the same for you, but when I was in ROTC, I was in college taking 18 to 20 hours, per quarter. I was doing PT 3 times a week. I had a part-time job, and I was going to, I was part of Ranger Challenge and all that other stuff that they basically voluntold me to do, just because I wanted to be a part of the program. You have to learn how to study, how to work hard, play hard, and all that stuff. Is that similar to what the experience that you had in ROTC?
100%. Like I said, when I came back in 2018, my first time in Charlotte, I got a job a week before classes started. So, I hit the ground running. I had to make sure I had some income coming in. I had to make sure, and I just quit like a couple months ago. So I've been with them for, a hot minute. But yeah, like I said, I had to work part-time. I believe 15 credit hours at least a semester. Had to catch up because the classes from Western didn't transfer fully to Charlotte. So I had to kind of find a new major and get back on it. So it's stressful. Like I said, it's one of those things that you have to want to do. I'll say that anybody can do it that wants to, that truly wants to. And, it's like I said, like speaking of like UKP, I mean, that's a lot, man. I didn't have that much on the table. I can only imagine. But yeah, like I say, it's tough. So got to find a way. And studying, being up till 3 a.m. and have to get up at 5:30 for PT, it's tough.
That was the one thing that when we were doing those 6 to 8 mile runs, for Ranger Challenge and stuff, Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings, that's the one thing I would try to motivate people. I would tell them, like, while we're running, I would tell them, hey, nobody's working harder than you today. All those kids in class that you're going to see all day, they didn't get up this time. They're not running 6 to 8 miles. And then, that mentality of like thinking that way of you're the hardest working person on campus today, and having that pride of walking around campus was something that I kind of wore on my shoulder as well. And you mentioned earlier about, being comfortable in front of people. That's command presence. That's something that you're going to be doing a lot, being a platoon leader in the Army.
Yes, sir.
Do you think you're ready to stand up in front of your formation and take command?
Interesting enough, KP, and this is just me. I've always been comfortable with talking to people. Even from a young age, that's been one of my kind of hallmarks. In middle school, I won top male because I was like the most vocal in the classroom and, all that good stuff. And high school, I took public speaking. Even when we had presentations, I was good to go. I was always the first one to raise my hand and be like, you know what, let me go ahead, get it out the way and set the tone. People hated that because it was like, dang, yeah, Jordan's going back up there first. How are we going to top that? So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm with it. You're
a natural leader. I mean, essentially, that's why you played varsity at a young age, and I'm sure that a lot of your classmates looked at you as someone to look at and try to emulate. And I just want to ask you, Jordan, who do you think taught you to think big and create your goals at an early age?
Well, I'll tell you, I've had 2 men in my life that influenced me for the most part. Even though my mom and my biological father weren't together, I knew that my dad always loved me, and he always instilled confidence in me no matter where he was at. He was out of my life for a short period of time in elementary school, But in middle school, he came back to South Carolina, and he's been there ever since. And I've been reconnected with him. And he's always, even when I didn't think that much of myself, he always gave me this kind of instilled confidence, like, you're a player. You got this. Like, one of the big things that kind of I got from him was, and I kind of put it in my own perspective, was that life happens out there. Nothing that you want's going to come to you. You got to go out and get it, and you got to grind. Me, my brothers, we've all instilled that kind of mindset. Now, also, I would say my stepdad, he was also it was interesting. So our relationship wasn't super close kind of growing up, but I've always respected him even more now as I got older. He was a rock, solid dude, worked hard every day and made sure that things were taken care of. And and he was interesting too, because he liked to read. At one point in my life, from middle school to like freshman year, we would just have house reading time. I used to enjoy reading. I used to get books and just, like a lot of fantasy books, and read for a couple hours. And yeah, like that, he always take his places. So I've had men, to this day, those two men have been helping me in every step of the way. And I give them so much gratitude. So I've had many, and my grandfather, of course. I mean, that man, that man has stuck through it to this point, like to this day. I would say he has been solid with me ever since. Even when there's times where I've kind of just like been distanced myself, he's always found his way to be like, hey, like, grandson, like, I'm here for you no matter what. Like, you're good. So I've had solid dudes around me. My mom, and all them. Love my ladies in my life. Great women across the board. But I would say I had a solid foundation of adults around me.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. It's really important too. That's not just enough to have the right type of people around you, but you have to be the type of person that's also going to be willing and able to listen and apply a lot of the advice that you get. So I think that chemistry is really important. And I want to ask you, LT, from where you are now, what's your learning and leadership path before you meet your first platoon? Like, where are you right now? Are you doing Gold Bar?
Yes, sir. Right now, I actually got back from Fort Knox last week. I'm in processing. Right now, I'm working at my school at UNC Charlotte as a Gold Bar recruiter. So essentially, I've been talking to college-age incoming cadets, in the future, more so high school at the level, and really just poking their brains. I've been working with one of the staff members in there. His name is Mr. Nash. Great dude. Him and I have been kind of just working through paperwork so far, figuring out how are we going to get these people in the program correctly and set them up for the best way that they can integrate themselves within what we have going on. And like I said, it's been a great experience. I mean, got my own office, able to make a few phone calls and shoot some emails to folks. And there's a lot of eager people out there that want to give this a try. And I just want to be a helping hand. So it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, I had some experience myself serving as Gold Bar. And one of the things that they made us do was they made me stand up because we were really heavy into recruiting nurses. And it was one of the most difficult things because you had to get people who would join the program, who had the right GPA, but also willing to join the military, and then could also do the physical fitness portion of it. And I would have to stand up in front of these basic nursing classes of like 150 to 200. Mostly were women. And I had to stand up there and talk to them about the Army ROTC program. And at, 23 years old, that was very, very unnerving, but it's something you had to be comfortable with because at some point you were going to be standing in front of a bunch of soldiers. So it was a great learning experience for me. And I want to ask you, going back to talking about the people that had an effect on your life, your mentors, how has the legacy of your mentors impacted the way you approach this next phase of your military career?
It's tough for me. Even there was a point in time in life where I wasn't where I wanted to be. And it was a dark time for me, mentally, emotionally. And I've always had them. And now to get to where I'm at now, from cadre to family to friends, the mentors that I have, I can't let them down. I'm trying to keep the train moving. And for me, it's a lot of pressure because these individuals, they've done a lot. And especially my father winning NCO of the year at one point.
Wow. He
has a name and I have his last name. So for me to be in a position to where I'll be in front of future soldiers and guiding them to pass they have to excel in their careers, it's a lot of pressure. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of those things, but it's good though. It's good pressure because it keeps you focused and it keeps me on course. So yes, it's tough.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can imagine it. It's anyone that's ever gone to bat for me before. I've always thought about that, making sure that I made it worth it. If somebody's really, put themselves out there to push for me to level up or go to the next level, I've often thought about, those folks that did go the extra mile for me. When you first get in front of your formation, your next platoon, what's your message going to be? How are you going to address your platoon for the very first time? How do you plan on introducing yourself and displaying that command presence and letting them know who you are?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Player, blessed and eager to be a part of what this battalion has going on, this platoon in specific. I want to let you know that I'm here to learn and I'm here to guide. I'm here to help and teach and be the best soldier, mentor, guidance that you guys can possibly have. I know that everybody has dreams, goals, and ambitions here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I want you guys to be the best versions of yourself that you can be, because that's overall going to set the tone for the mission. There's an overarching mission that has to be accomplished at all times. With that in mind, I'm going to push you guys to be the best versions of yourself to accomplish that. If you guys help me, I'm always there for you. I'll be always there for you from day one. I just want to let you know that I'm here for you. I'm ready to learn, sit back and learn, and take this beast on and really just ride with y'all. I know that's probably the best way to put it, but that's kind of what I have in my head.
Honestly, that's the best way, is just to come in and introduce yourself and, let them know, hey, I'm here to support. I'm here to help you. I think one of the things that you're going to find really interesting is how you're going to be in charge of people 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get those phone calls on Saturday nights. You're going to get those phone calls on those weird hours, somebody going through a personal issue at home or somebody getting in trouble. That doesn't happen on the civilian side. When you clock out of work, and you go home, you get a DUI, your employer won't come and pick you up. You will, Lieutenant Player, and your squad leaders will, and your platoon sergeant will. And I think the most important thing is when you first get to your first unit, just like we spoke before, is to make sure that you sit back and you listen and you learn and you try to gain a better understanding for the culture of your unit. And you seem like the kind of person that's going to do exactly that. And I think the message that you have is perfect for what you're trying to accomplish as far as leadership wise. And what do you think your role is going to be compared to your platoon sergeant, your squad leaders? Like what's the number one role that you're going to take?
So I would say my role coming in as new PL, I'm the planner. A lot of what my commanders have as far as missions, op boards, all that good stuff, I have to make it digestible and make it attainable for everybody else. It's tough. We've done it in the ROTC spectrum, but actually doing it 24/7 and kind of making it my lifestyle, it's interesting. Being a PL, you're leading from the front and having to take on a lot of tasks and responsibilities is definitely something that is very unique to the job. And working with the PSG, my PSG is going to be I hope they're solid, because they're going to be the ones that are like, right there with me every step of the way. But for the most part, I mean, I'm the planner. Tone starts with me, getting the mission out, getting the task out for the day, and making sure everybody's on foot, being the example of leadership that everybody's looking for. It all starts with me. So it's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a great experience for you. And many times you don't realize it when you're already in it, but you look back at those times, your platoon leader times and the experiences that you had. You're going to look back someday and you're going to be like, wow, that was intense. Like that was something special. And I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back now, I thought it was a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, but I really appreciated those times. And I think that's what you'll come to grips with eventually in time. And I want to ask you, Jordan, you seem like a very polished young adult, very professional. I want to ask you, where do you want to be or have accomplished in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, hopefully I'm a captain. Honestly, and I had this conversation with one of my fellow staff members today, I want to be a little bit different. I don't think there's that many signal rangers out there or airborne signal guys and gals. So I definitely want to give that a shot. Kind of put that patch on my shoulder and, have that kind of flex, I guess. But I definitely want to be accomplished within the forces. 10 years, I would say hopefully by then I'll be a major. Hopefully by then I'll have enough money to be able to start franchising. I've always had this kind of, even especially last year, I had this kind of suave idea of possibly owning a Chick-fil-A. I know it's out there, but I know Chick-fil-A has not stopped business since the pandemic and whatnot, and they've only been booming. So I do want to get my hands on some of that. But yeah, like I said, if I fall in love with it and things are only looking up, I'd love to make this a 20-year career, and if not more.
Do you see yourself in a career in the military?
Oh, like for 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I want to do the full 20 to get max benefits.
Okay.
But even me talking now, I don't have that much foresight.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to make this a career. I do have ambitions as far as on the business side of things. Now, good thing with Signal is that there are opportunities to get lots of certifications. And these certifications are going to really kind of put me in a space to where I can do certain things outside of the military. And I plan on getting as many as I can to make myself kind of stick out more to the market. So I do have business ambitions, and that on the side, like making kind of like side money.
You're going to have options, and having options and having that lateral mobility to leave the military and become a business owner and to own a franchise is very much in the cards for you. And many people, I think, when they join the military, they think, oh, well, I can't do this or I can't do that. But if you look at some of the most accomplished folks out there, people have become musicians, actors, entertainers, things of that nature. And so you jumping into business, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you, whether you decide to stay in or not. And I want to ask you, what are some of the milestones and achievements that you hope to conquer while you're in the military?
So as far as milestones go, like I said, I want to be well decorated. I want to get my hands on as much schooling that the military has to offer. I would like to get my master's degree here in the next couple of years, actually. Shoot, Lieutenant Colonel would be nice. that'd be very nice to get to. But yeah, I would like to definitely next couple of years possibly be a Ranger, do airborne. And I know this might be a little bit out there, but I do want to try. I want to travel a lot of different places. My first choice actually was Italy, but I wound up getting for hood initially, which is fine. Like I'm with it.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to see countries in the Middle East. I'm curious, and I want to kind of see their lifestyle and what we're kind of doing over there, And I just kind of want to get a better understanding of the world around me for the most part. But I want to travel a lot of places.
Carry on that work hard, play hard mentality, that you've had all through college. Make sure you're accomplishing your education, continuing that, as well as, being successful in your positions and your leadership positions as well, and enjoying life, getting that balance of all three there together is really important. And I want to make a suggestion that I interviewed a former Army officer named Mike Lopez, who is the military outreach coordinator for Coursera. I interviewed him a few weeks ago. If you get a chance to listen to his podcast, he was a former signal officer who actually served in Afghanistan. And he has some really, really nice insights on, something that you might want to take into consideration with you being a signal officer as well.
Nice.
His interview really surprised me. He came out with a lot of things that I identified with, and I had to think a lot more about after I was done having our conversation for the podcast. And I want to ask you, Lieutenant Player, do you have any advice for folks out there that may not see themselves as commissioned officer or ROTC material? Maybe somebody that's in high school that may not have the GPA, may not be in the most ideal situation, or somebody that's currently in college. What advice would you give them to motivate them to understand that this is something that everyone can accomplish?
I'll say this, even with what I've kind of gone through with life and accomplishments that I've made, there are many times where I didn't feel like I was capable, I wasn't competent, and I wasn't able to do the things I think I can do now. Through all the doubt that you do have, really think about what you want. Think about what you desire. Think about where you see yourself. You know, and I get it. There's a lot of people suffer these days with mental health, image issues, financial issues, and things of that nature. And there's certain career paths that can kind of, you know, get you to that spectrum. Fast money, it's out there. Not the best money, but you know, it's out there. Stability, income, and a family environment, being able to travel as well is one of those foundations that I think the military does a great job with. For anybody that's curious and able that wants to do that, just take a look at it. Be introspective with yourself. If you really want the best out of life and you want the things that you desire, you know, those insecurities have to go. You know, I talk to people back at home that ask me stuff like this, and they're like, Jordan, like, I didn't see how this was coming. Like, I didn't see you as, you know, any of this. And I'm like, hey, man, like, I didn't see that either. Like, you know, I just wake up and decide to do this. But at the same time, for me, I've always had this hunger to be more, because I could sit back, take the easy route, and let life just handle me and put me anywhere it wants to, you know. But that's not the way I want to take it. I want to have my hands on everything that I have going on for myself. I want to be able to navigate where I want to. And for those that want to do that, do it. 100%. And the Army is a great place to start. The military is a great place to start. I'll always advocate for it. And like I said, when you have self-doubts and the world is telling you no, look at it as a challenge. It's a challenge. When people say you can't do it, show them. I tell you what, when you accomplish stuff and people tell you you couldn't do it, that makes the reward a whole lot richer. On the, you know, it just really does, you know. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't say anybody can do this, but anybody that's hungry and able sure can.
I agree with you 100% because I definitely was not college material. I was told in high school that I wasn't college material by a guidance counselor and wouldn't let me take any of those honor classes. I had to get almost straight A's my junior year to even be considered my senior year to take those honor classes. And, you know, honestly, I'm not mad. That was one of those situations where somebody challenged me, and you choose whether you step up or you agree with them. And Jordan, you're going to have a lot of young enlisted folks within your ranks. They're going to be looking to you for answers and advice. And I'm sure that you're going to give them the best that you have. And you have a lot of life experience to offer as well. And for anyone out there that's listening, and they're interested in connecting with you, are you on LinkedIn or Instagram? What social platforms do you use?
So for the most part, I use Instagram. My Instagram is jplay97. Instagram is the best way to go to reach me. But yeah, like I said, I'm always down to help those that need it. And to go back to the original question, one thing too is this: it's hard to be successful when it's just you. When you have a circle of people that are on the same ambition, same goals, same drive that you want to get to, all you're going to do is have a melting pot for success. And really look at your circle and look at your friends, look at your family, those that are where they are, where they're at. And are you happy being there? Do you want to be there? You know? So really ask and demand more of yourself and those around you. But yeah, like I said, Instagram is the best way to reach me. I'm always down to help out anybody that's aspiring to do this route in the military. And yeah, so it's, the handle is jplay97.
All right, folks. Well, if you are an aspiring future military leader and you'd like to have more information about Lieutenant Player's journey, you can reach him on Instagram and, you know, find out more information on, you know, where he's at and what's going on, but also follow him on Instagram as well, because he's got a very insightful journey ahead of him in leadership. And it kind of makes me smile to think about, you know, you being a platoon leader, because I was there one time too, and I know what it felt like. And My experience was in Iraq. That was my first platoon, and there was no garrison for me. So for you, at least you get that training environment, and that's a good thing. So I really appreciate your time today, Lieutenant Player. I'm looking forward to keeping in contact with you and keeping tabs on you and seeing you through to getting that captain and that major and that lieutenant colonel and who knows, man, maybe someday that general rank.
Hey, man, I'm all for it. Thank you, KP, for having me.
Dream big. Thank you for joining us today. And for folks out there, thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time. You can always see yourself as someone like Jordan Player. If you're a young, aspiring, future military leader, take Jordan's advice today into consideration and, challenge yourself. Don't try to look for those positions that make you comfortable. Put yourself out there and learn something new. I want to thank you for joining us on the Morning Formation. As for Jordan, I'm KP, and we're out. You've been listening to the Morning Formation podcast. I hope you found today's materials helpful and of value to your current situation. You can connect with me on Instagram at _morning_formation_podcast, or you can connect with me via email at theformationpodcaster@gmail.com. Also, I would like to thank my partners at Act Now Education for their support. Authenticity, community, and trusted is what you can expect from all members of the Act Now Education team. You can link up with them today and learn about some new, free educational resources on their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or at their website, actnoweducation.com. Whether today's show took you back to a nostalgic time or helped you think about tomorrow, thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you again. Stay safe and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out.